Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Inept General with a huge piece of Total War Warhammer 2 news. As some of you may know, I got a chance to go to Creative Assembly. We got a bit of a Q&A with the developers up there, and we have a huge piece of news for you. There is free-for-all multiplayer mode coming. Now, for some of you who don't know what free-for-all is, it effectively means you will have battles where every army is fighting every other army and has huge potential for chaos, lunacy, and fun. So let's talk a little bit about how it will work and a couple of extra bits and pieces of multiplayer news for Total War Warhammer 2 and how the whole thing fits together and perhaps includes aspects of Total War Warhammer 1. So let's start off with this free-for-all mode. So free-for-all mode will start. There'll be a couple of bespoke maps for the battle. So it'll be on very specific maps that you can play this free-for-all mode. But you can go everyone against everyone, 4 armies on the battlefield, complete carnage, everyone firing on everybody. And you can have mirrored armies. This was just an inclusion of the 4 suspected races of Total War Warhammer 2, Dark Elves, High Elves, and gives you an idea of the kind of chaos you might have. Now, you might ask, how does this work? Is there a winner? What goes on? Yes, there is a winner. It works on a score basis. So what will happen is, every bit of damage you do, the way it counts currently in Total War Warhammer 1, as counting you sort of for kills and damage you do that way in Total War Warhammer 1, will count towards your score. Now, it effectively takes the health you've taken off enemies and divides that by the cost of the unit you've taken that amount of health off them. If you do more damage to more cost-effective units, that will give you more points than if you did the same amount of damage against a cheaper unit, if you get my meaning. So that it's just to incentivize you not necessarily to just chase after the weaker units, because the higher cost units of the enemy will do you a bit more good. It will cost you a bit more. So that will make rich targets of particularly things that maybe can't hold up well once you catch them, like the Luminarch. Stuff like that would be huge points if you can catch up with it and take it down. You'll also get a bonus for last man standing. So if you are the survivor, you get a bonus of points for being that. Now, what those exact values are yet, we don't know. They're still tweaking it, but that's an aspect. But it still makes it possible that even if you die early on in the free-for-all mode, you can still win, because it's on who does the most damage. Now, there is that bonus for last man standing, but how much that will affect the end score or be worth chasing down is a different element. So you don't have to be the last one to survive. That's not who wins the battle. It's who's done the most damage. Now, there are some quirks with this system that need to maybe be explained and might irk some people off early doors, but they said they're working on some of these quirks, but they're just things to bear in mind when playing the game. So now, this makes the vampire counts potentially a terrible army to do this with. Now, let's backtrack a little bit. I mentioned vampire counts, but they're a Total War Warhammer 1 faction, and yes, if you own both games, you will be able to play in the lobbies of Total War Warhammer 2 with Total War Warhammer 1 armies. However, if you don't own Total War Warhammer 1, you will not be able to play as the Empire, the Vampire Counts, the Wood Elves, the Beastmen, and you have to own all those additional DLCs as well to play as that race. But the lobbies won't be interjected, so if you play Warhammer 1 on the multiplayer lobby, you will not be playing against people who own Warhammer 2 the game. People playing Warhammer 2 the game will only be playing in that lobby, and they will just have access to extra armies that people who didn't own the first game or any particular DLC from the first game won't have access to in multiplayer. That's how it will work in terms of picking your factions. I hope that explains that. I hope I was clear enough there. So if you own both games, you can play against the Lizard Men with the Empire. You can play against the High Elves with the Undead, with the Vampire Counts even, and you can play those sorts of combinations. If you only own Total War Warhammer 1, that's all you're playing. You'll never see a Lizard Man, you'll never see a Dark Elf, you'll never match up with anyone playing on the Total War Warhammer 2 lobby or servers. They're not interchangeable that way. Now, bearing this in mind, there are a couple of quirks to keep in mind for the way this scoring system works. For example, summoning zombies is probably a terrible idea in the free-for-all mode. You're just giving your opponents more points to score. They'll wipe out zombies and they're getting points for the health damage they're doing to those zombies. Now, fair enough, they might not be as valuable as if they were doing damage to something else that cost a bit more, but they're still doing damage, they're still getting points. So summoning becomes a bit of a liability. Now, what about friendly fire? Friendly fire won't count towards your point total, nor will it detract from it. But what friendly fire can do in a sort of strategic way, if it really comes down to the wire, is if you have a unit there and you know you're ahead on points, you can probably maybe try to isolate some of your own units and just start laying down some friendly fire, if at all possible, to rob your enemy of the opportunity to get those kill points. So you won't be getting any points for it, but neither will they, because you're robbing them of the opportunity to get those points from your units, because you're draining their health yourself. So that's something to bear in mind. So it does give light to a lot of weird strategies potentially going on in these 4x4 games, which I think is amazing. And like, the more chaos, the better, as far as I'm concerned, with these all games. I think that's a fantastic part. Now, Magic also has some quirks around this system. The way it was described to me by the CA guys in the room, now I wasn't actually necessarily aware of this, it's probably something that I thought about, but not hugely in the back of my mind, because it really just came down to the win in Total War Warhammer 1, was that apparently mage magic that does, that's direct damage magic, apparently doesn't count towards the kill totals in Total War Warhammer 1, and thus doesn't count towards the damage totals in this 4x4 mode. So direct damage spells don't do it, but missiles and vortexes do count as damage. So that might affect your spell choice going into a game like this. If direct damage just doesn't do anything, it's almost not worth having. You may as well just save the money and just have the missile spells and the vortex spells for your mage to do some damage and to get some kill points. Now, some fundamentals about this game mode. It will only ever be accessible with four players at a time, so there won't be two-player, well, that's versus two-player free-for-all, but there won't be three-player or five-player or six-player free-for-all mode. It's only going to be 4 players. It's going to be set at that for the time being. They could maybe go down to 3. That's something they could play with later on down the line, but at the moment they're just sticking with 4 and making it work at that level before they make any further quirks. As I said before, it'll be on custom maps, and you won't be able to launch into a quick mode for it just yet. You'll have to go into the lobby and start a 4x4 match, and that's the way that will go down. It won't be a quick matchmaking mode in Total War Warhammer. You'll have to select it as sort of a custom fight. And so it will have a select number of maps that this mode will even work on to begin with. Now, they are open to the possibility of having the map editors make the maps available for 4v4s, but they weren't 100% sure if created maps would be able to be used for that function at the moment. But it's something they have been thinking about, but they're just not 100% sure if it works fully at the moment. They haven't tried any creator-made, any sort of any fan-made maps for the mode, and they're not sure if it will work. But it's something they are bearing in mind. But that is effectively it, guys. That's all the details I have for you on the free-for-all mode as far as multiplayer is concerned. I hope I laid out how multiplayer will work as far as the races go in Total War Warhammer and how the ones from Total War Warhammer 1 will tie in. So a lot of fun, really looking forward to getting this going. It will be huge, it'll be amazing, super great addition to the game. Got a round of applause in the room when they announced it. So I'm super excited for it. Now, that was the good news, guys. Let's go for a little bit of the bad news. So, unfortunately, there's not really going to be any army customization in Total War Warhammer 2. Maybe in 3, but not in this iteration of the game, guys, I'm afraid. Still no army painter, no real banner customization or anything like that, as far as I'm aware. But, you know what, we're getting free-for-all mode, so maybe baby steps, we can be happy with that. So, super looking forward to that, guys. And as I mentioned, it's great that the races from the first game are folded in if you own the first game. That is super exciting. Now, if you guys haven't checked it out already, I did manage to have a fight in Total War Warhammer 2. That's in my Yes, I've Played It Total War Warhammer 2 video, coming up in the top right-hand corner now. Do check it out, or it'll be in the description below. And other than that, guys, I have done a campaign information Q&A about what we can expect in the campaign coming up in Total War Warhammer. And again, do check that out in the top right-hand corner or in the description below. Hope you guys are as jazzed as I am about the free-for-all mode in Total War Warhammer 2. Think it'll be a great addition. Lots of carnage. Can't wait to meet you guys on the battlefield in that one. As always, guys, thank you all for watching. Please do drop a like and do subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. Special thank goes out to my patrons, John, Reese, Colin, Thomas, Matthias, Samuel, Matthews, David, and Peter. Thank you guys for supporting me. And as always, guys, Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.